Hi, I'm Larry Troca, and I'm here today to talk about putting a good stop on your horse. You know, most of our Western disciplines require a horse to do a nice balanced stop on the hindquarters. And if your horse is going to be a reining horse or a cutting horse or a reined cow horse, it requires him to do a really strong stop. And the way I would describe a good stop is a horse that stops, soft in his mouth, soft in his poll, really rounds his back and pushes with his hindquarters, yet maintains relaxation, staying loose up in his shoulders and his front legs to maintain balance. When we're going to teach a green horse to stop, or even an older horse, when we're going to teach him to advance his stop, there's some key factors that we need to consider. Number one, the horse needs to have the desire to stop. We can't have the horse with an attitude that wants to go, go, go all the time, or we're not going to get a good, reliable stop. Number two, we need to teach the horse to respond to a light stopping signal, which means basically lightness in his mouth. When we ask for the stop, we need to have it so that we just barely have to ask him and he puts out maximum effort. Number three is we have to be aware of the horse's stride when we ask for the stop. There is timing involved when a horse is loping, and there's only one part of his stride when we can ask for the stop and get a good hindquarter stop. If we miss that timing, we actually force the horse to stop on his front end. And the fourth factor is the rider's position in the saddle, the way he uses his body weight, and the way he sits in the saddle when he asks for the stop. All those factors will really influence how well the horse stops and how quickly he learns to stop well. The horse I mounted on today is a little 2-year-old, and this 2-year-old has had about 40 rides stretched out over a period of about 3 or 4 months. And so he's still pretty green, but he's ready to be advanced a little bit. So I'm going to demonstrate some of the techniques we use to get a horse stopping better, and we'll just kind of go through it step by step. Now, the first step that we need to be aware of is before we're going to get good, consistent stops, we need to build the horse's desire to stop. You know, we've all ridden hot horses that just want to go, go, go all the time. And if you just leave them like that, you're never going to have them really stopping good. So on this little 2-year-old, I'm going to show you some of the techniques that we use to get a horse wanting to stop. Now, if I have a horse that wants to just go all the time, I'll take his desire to go away from him by doubling him. I'll reach down and pull him around. If he takes off, I reach down, pull him around again. And I keep doing that until he wants to stop. And if he's really hot, you might have to do this 10 times in a row. Now this colt, he's not thinking about stopping yet. And we'll just keep doing it. There. Ask him real light. So I just doubled him, doubled him, doubled him. Every time he wanted to take off, I just doubled him around until he finally came to the realization that I'm going to keep doing it until he slows down, okay? The other thing a person can do to slow a horse down is do circles, do a lot of circles. Get them kind of tired. If you got a horse that wants to go, go, go all the time, let him go, but make him go in a nice tight circle. And when they slow down, pet on them, bring them to a stop nice and lightly, and then sit there for 2 or 3 minutes, let them air up, catch their breath. They'll start associating the stop with resting and having a pleasant experience. Once we've got our horse kind of wanting to stop, we've built his desire to stop, the next thing we're going to work on is getting him to stop off the light signal, basically the light touch with the reins. And the way we do that is we ask him to stop real lightly, and if he doesn't respond, we let him know that the bit is going to get more uncomfortable if he doesn't. And we'll do that in 3 ways. We'll ask real light, and if he doesn't stop, we'll seesaw the bit and make it uncomfortable for him. The second thing we might do is we might bump that bit with light bumps getting stronger and stronger, or we might just pull strong and draw him into the ground. And all 3 of those reprimands are designed to let that horse know that he can avoid any kind of uncomfortable bit pressure if he'll just respond lightly. And I'll kind of demonstrate it on this 2-year-old here. So ideally at home you want to kind of have your horse lope down before you work on the trot. I've left this horse kind of fresh so I can really show you what to do. I want him kind of making some mistakes. So I'm going to trot him up, ask him to stop lightly. He's not stopping. A seesaw, seesaw. And then let him sit here a little bit. It would be even good if we even backed him up a little bit. Now, you see this horse isn't backing real well. A backup, a good backup, really isn't necessary to teach a horse to really stop hard. I've seen plenty of horses stop really hard that could just barely back up. But I'll tell you, for the vast majority of horses, having a good backup on a horse really helps to stop on 9 out of 10 horses. And we'll get that backup by putting pressure in the horse's mouth. When he steps back, we release it. Put pressure in his mouth. When he steps back, we release it. And we can even put pressure in his mouth and bump him with our feet to get a better response. Until when we pick up the reins, they start stepping. Okay? And I want the horse to flex at the pole when we do this. If the nose goes up and resists, I'm just going to shake it down. So let's trot him up. Ask for the stop. He responded better that time. So we're going to go the other way. I bumped him a few times. I asked him real light, and he started to stop, but I wanted to intensify it a little bit to get him to try harder. So right after I asked lightly, I gave him some slack, bumped 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and I increased the strength of those bumps as we went on. Again, I'm going to back him up. He's stepping pretty good. I want him to step a little bit better. See, he's kind of resisting. Kind of make him drop off that bit. I'm going to kick him with my feet to get that back up a little bit better. Shake his head down. So he got a little worried there, so I just kind of reassure him. Good. So he really tried a little bit harder that time. Now the third technique is what's called drawing the horse into the ground. If I ask the horse lightly and he doesn't respond, I'm just going to pull him. And he takes a step back and I give him the slack. Basically what I'm doing is I'm letting him know that I can pull hard. Ask light. Good. Pull him. Notice that I pulled strong and seesawed the bit at the same time. Basically, I'm just letting him know that he needs to respond to the bit. Very good response. So that time I just barely touched him. He dropped off the bit and kind of pushed behind. I would like to talk about the rider's position when we're asking for these stops. Most of the time, you need to ask for the stop when you're sitting on the cheeks of your butt. When it's time to stop, lower back, slightly rounded, shoulders over your hips. And I should also mention, you really need the right type of saddle to get a good stop. Otherwise, you're going to be falling forward all the time. You need a saddle with the right kind of pocket in the seat, a pocket that's about 2/3 of the way back. Most reining and cutting saddles need to have the stirrup leathers hung far forward in the right position on the tree. And they also need to be designed so they fit the horse right. There's a lot of saddles that don't, but these are things that you need to be aware of. When you're stopping your horse, your hand position should be about the same height as your belt loops. And we bring our elbows, we ride with our hands in front of the saddle, and when it's time to stop, we bring our elbows back so that our forearms stay in a straight line toward the horse's mouth, in a relatively straight line. So most of the stopping position is on the cheeks of your butt and elbows come back. And I'm exaggerating here, but this is the idea. If you're arching your back, it's going to cause you to fall forward. Your horse wants to feel you quit riding. He wants to feel you relax and melt down in that saddle, and that's how you're going to get your best stops. One of the most important factors in getting a horse to stop well from the lope or the gallop is the timing of the cue. On a finished horse that really knows how to stop well, the timing isn't such a big factor. But when you're first teaching the stop, and when that horse is kind of in that beginner to intermediate stage, your timing is critical. When a horse is loping, if he's loping on the right lead, when that right front leg hits the ground and he rolls over that right front leg, the hind feet are in the air and on their way forward for the next stride. And that's the timing we need to have when we ask for the stop. We need to ask for the stop when the hind legs are in the air and on their way forward, so that when we say whoa and ask with that light pressure, he can shoot his hind legs up under his body and get a good hind quarter stop. If we miss that timing, if we ask for the stop when the hind feet are on the ground and the front legs are in the air, the horse is forced to come down on his front end and do one of those jarring front end stops that almost catapults you out of the saddle. And we've all experienced that. So this timing is critical. And the way you get it is when you're loping your horse, you can feel when the hind feet are in the air because the back of the saddle will come up. When the hind feet are in the air, the horse's hind quarters rise, it makes the back of the saddle come up. And unfortunately, that's the part of the stride where the rider feels a little insecure. It feels much more secure when the horse's hind feet are on the ground, and that's when a lot of people say whoa and get that front end stop. So to get that timing, you just need to become aware of every time that saddle comes up in the back. You know the hind feet are in the air, that's the time to say whoa. Now, our stopping cue, once our horse starts responding to the light touch in his mouth to stop, whether we're doing it strictly off the reins or we're saying whoa, whatever our stopping cue is, we need to give that cue lightly, and then during that stop, kind of reinforce it a little bit with little pulls and releases. When I'm stopping a finished horse, I'll say whoa, and it's set, release, set, release. I set the reins lightly, release, set the reins lightly, release, and by doing that set, release, it allows the horse to lock up behind and yet keep his front end loose and his jaw and his poll soft. if I just pull hard and hold it, it's going to cause the horse to brace. He's going to brace in the jaw, he's going to brace in the poll, he's going to brace with his front end. So that's why it's important to stop with the give and take, give and take. That'll get the horse dropping off that bit, stand loose up front. Well, I'm going to lope this 2-year-old and stop him a few times from the lope, and I'll kind of school him as we go along. If he stops good, I'll reward him. If he doesn't stop well, I'll correct him with the reins using either the seesaw, the bump, 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 or the draw into the ground. And maybe even the backup after the stop. So I'll lope this horse to the left, pick up the left lead, hopefully. And he picked up the wrong lead, so I'm going to stop him. Move his hindquarters to the left, ask for the lope. Ho. So I said ho and took hold of him real light with pull release, and he didn't try very hard, so I seesawed the reins. Now I'm going to ask for the backup. Notice I'm asking for it and he's not moving his feet. I'm going to use more force. He starts stepping, I give him the slack. Pull stronger, he starts stepping, give him the slack. Shake his head down. Ask him again. Good. I'm going to trot him up. Better. Ask him to drop his nose, ask him to back up. I'm going to kick on him a little bit to ask for a better response. I want him to be stepping back. There we go. All right, we're going to pick up the lope again. Hoop. Ask for the backup. Get him to drop off the bit. He's kind of resisting a little bit. He doesn't want to back up freely, so I'm going to kick on him until he does. There we go. We got a few free steps. Go the other direction. Now I should say, if we're going along and he just totally ignores my stopping cue, I can also double him. Oh, like that. We can kind of remind him, oh, better. If he's just ignoring us and refuses to respond, we can just start doubling him again like we did at the beginning and get them thinking more about stopping. Oh, very good. Okay, so that time he tried a little bit harder. This time I'm just going to draw him into the ground until he backs up. There we go. Draw him into the ground. Now when you see his mouth open up, that's resistance. When a horse gets really supple, they'll no longer open their mouth. There we go. Oh, much better. Much better. So that time he actually slid a few feet. Oh, very good. Okay, so he gave me a couple good stops right in a row, and he's barefoot. He doesn't have any shoes on, so I'm not going to overdo the stopping. He really tried hard right there 2 times in a row. So now it's a good place to just stop, let him catch his air, pet on him, and just sit here for a little while and let him realize that stopping hard is a good thing.